Yes. Greetings, y'all. You are tuned into Cosmic's Root Show once again with Brother Siayome, aka Cosmical Mystic, and Brother Abon Karam. And yes, you're tuned into Blessed Radio FM. Well, blessedradio.org. And for those of you can tune in live right now, live stream on YouTube or on the internet, www.blessradio.org, or on the TuneIn app. Yes, wonderful here again to be with y'all. And yes, I think we're just going to hit the ground running. But just to inform you that this is going to be part 2 of what I did last Tuesday, talking about what is the meaning of identity. Yeah, I'm going to expound a bit further on that because I did, for those little recap, what does the word identity actually mean? We use a lot of words, and we are dealing with just the conditioned beliefs that's being superimposed upon these words. And therefore, we're out of a vibrational alignment, really, with how we actually, in the context and how we use various words to define ourselves. And even the word define means to set limits and bounds to. Some folk would say, oh, it's to clarify things. Do you see how misrepresentative we have become with even the language we're using to think with? And therefore, all words, yes, holds its own vibration, frequency, and tones, okay? So some folk would say, well, it's just about the intention behind the word. Yeah, but the word was created with a particular conscious energy behind it. So, you see, this is where we would delude ourselves and create certain attitudes to say, to stop us from saying, well, actually, I need to correct, and in order to align vibrationally with the integrity of myself, how I'm using to describe, or what I'm using to actualize, how I'm using to the language I'm using to think with. You see what I mean? To align my feelings to be in the correct frequency with what I intend. You see, all of this stuff is necessary, but what we will do is create all these excuses, so we don't take the responsibility to even work out what is the real deal of what we're trying to convey, how we're trying to wake up to ourselves, really, in order to wake up to who he is, essentially. Anyhow, and it's not just anyhow, but I'm going to play another tune before I really get into this thing. And where I'm coming from, what I'm talking about, y'all, is more of the information that assists in deconditioning the unconscious, so one can liberate and individuate to realize their true, unique nature and intrinsic identity, because, boy, all the things is going on, and all the delusions people acting upon. And you can't tell people nothing because everybody, I'll believe what I want to believe. And it's good. It's cool. Fine. You do. But yes, sir. You see, there's a lot of delusions and you manifest these things. There's a lot of confusion. You manifest them things too. You know what I mean? You know, you can't believe a lie and manifest that too because, you know, you can't believe what you want. You see? But the thing is here now, we're in a time where it's to wake up from the man-made laws you deal with. The distortion of these natural laws that you're living your life by. And surprised why there's so much mental illness going on. You know, unaware of how the manipulation of your own consciousness and the distraction of your attention or the actual control of where your attention is being directed, that you're giving freely your power away to that because you don't, you know, what we say? You don't, you're not realizing that it's through your attention that you're paying, yeah, through the currency. Where attention goes, energy flows. See? So people just don't think, say, even attention is that important. Or, you know, why does it matter where I put my attention? You know, all of them things. And don't even realize that more time your attention is being constructed, decided, controlled by, you know, external forces manipulating that part of you you're unconscious of. You know? I mean, it's deep. It's sweet as well. But anyhow, I'll go play our next tune here. And, yeah, I'll go play this next tune. And let me see here now. Something I have to deal with here. Right. Yeah, I'll go play our next tune. And I think this is pertinent because rebelling against, you know, false doctrines and, you know, conditional, institutional, societal, and cultural, yeah, programming is, you know, the soul wants to be liberated from these things. So, yeah, man, enjoy this tune. And I'll be back with you on the flip side of this. All right.
Capture
Yes, yes, yes. I'm a rebel, soul rebel. That was the original cut there, sir. You know, and I'm gonna play the next version of that. One time. Soul rebel. Yeah, man. You say the soul is the rebel. The soul is the truth. The soul is of I, and I is what is coming here to liberate itself from the fetters of what them call the fetters of the soul. The soul is here to liberate itself from all this man-made conditioning and mind control, you see. Because, you see, you deal with man-made laws, which is unnatural, or it's distortion of natural laws. Yeah. And you're seeing the impact and the consequences of all of this and all of that. You know, there's a lot of things, as it says, so much trouble in the world, you know. But it's based upon all these man-made laws that people are live by. You see. These opinions that is being given these human opinions that so much has been given so much authority. You know, you give so much authority to these things. And, you know, I was talking about identity. What is the meaning of identity? And I actually went into the literalization of the word now, you know, because we use words and we get so attached to what we believe this is and what it mean. And it don't mean what you're believing it mean. And it's like you wouldn't use the word peanut butter for a bag of sugar, would you? You understand? You wouldn't use the word ketchup, right? For peas. You understand? It don't match, does it? It's not a correct representation of what it is you intending to align with or to express, is it? And then every word does have its own frequency and vibration and what it is. Some people say, but it's the intention. Yes, intention is about alignment, the intention. But you see, I can turn around and say, grease, right? But I mean water. And it don't matter how my intention to use the word grease. Yeah, my intention is about water, but I'm using the word grease. It doesn't matter about your intention now, does it? Because you're not using the right. It's like you're not using the correct key for open up the correct lock. You get me? You can say it's a key, and I put the key in the lock, but it's all to do with my intention. Well, if the key not fit the lock, then open up the lock. So sometimes we use these type of things to kind of deflect, stay in ignorance, stay in the hypnotic spell. And this hypnotic spell is the hypnotic spell of the five senses. Where you think everything that the five senses register back to you is reflects reality, and it does not. So we can get all into these words and think, well, the words don't matter. It's like, well, if it don't matter, then why, if it doesn't matter, then why do you get affected by words then? Why do you depend upon words? Because you're dealing with language. And the language you use is what you use for think with, So anyway, as I was explaining that, I was asking, so what's the meaning of identity? What's the meaning of these various words? I went in and talked about last Tuesday about consideration. What does the word consider mean? Yeah? And even if you look at the word consideration, what you end up hearing people will say is, oh, it is taking, being sensitive to the feelings of others. It's being sympathetic or being empathic, but empathy and sympathy is not the same thing, right? Of where someone else is coming from, and all of this. We'll get into like say, yeah, man, I know what I mean, and you're using the word, and then this whole idea of intelligence, intellectual. So, you think to yourself like, well, boy, you're just dealing with, you think consideration, careful thought. It's about, deliberation, reflection, all of these other terms you get put upon it, contemplation, yeah, cogitation, look upon there what they say, meditation, inspection, scrutiny, analysis, review. This is what they're going to tell you. For example, the word consideration means. When you just go to the etymology, and I know some people are not interested with the etymology. They're more interested in how a word kind of became readapted and reused and, taken out of the context it originally was in, and why we use certain terms now and where it originally came from, and why we're using, and how it's adapted to the way we're identifying with particular words today. Hence, how we end up having certain words that become slang terms, but we're taking them for the original formation of a word. But yet we are using these words to think with and communicate with and express ourselves and even feel with. Certain words bring up certain feelings in people. See? So I'm one who say, well, you know what? I'd rather go to the roots of something so I know how it grew. So you can actually tap into the consciousness energy behind that thought. Because everything originates in consciousness. And you know what I mean? That could be continually said, but this is the truth. So look here. So when you actually go into the word consideration, for example, the word consideration, well, you find, say, it goes back to what, a lot of things seem to go back to the origin of Latin, you know what I mean? And then it moves into Old French, and then into French Old English, and, you got Germanic, and you've got Dutch, and do you see all of these passageways, these avenues that various words being construct move through, and they're being conditioned, you can then say, through these different dialects that they're passing through in their so-called, as they're being presented to you. So when you go to the roots of it, you find that consideration comes through the Latin. Considere means to examine. And then I also explained about, all right, so there you got consideration, and you got consider. Now, consideration comes from considere, which is what means to examine. But then if you look into the word consider, you see, to consider, you find that there now, that's a composite word that links you into, well, siddur. Siddur comes from sidus, yeah? And that is related to the stars, all right? So you're dealing with a composition of a word now. You're reading that considere is Latin for examine, and then you have the word siddur or sidus, which is related to stars. So you got the composite of considere as in con, and you got the word siddur, which means star, okay? So really then, so considere, or to consider, have consideration, means to examine. But then you got a composite of that word from considere added with siddur, so you had consider, and you have what? It means, right there, sir, to examine the stars. Consider, to examine the stars. So I did read out something by a good brother of mine, Galactic Clyde, last Tuesday. He was writing something about the stars. He was saying about how basically the stars here is our guidance that keeps us in tune with natural law. And how we're so out of tune with that because we're actually dealing with man's law, which is a distortion of natural law. And therefore, and why do I say that? Because you're seeing things that people are making legal, giving authority to these human opinions, and are living out things, acting out things, which is just diabolical and distortion. I mean, you've got, look, man, you got what man-made law and all this unnatural law, that people put so much emphasis on and give so much authority. You see, all these human opinions makes you now gonna, they can come up with things and tell a child that they were born into the wrong body, and therefore, they can choose to, mutilate the body, right? To change it into whatever they want to consider they should have been in. Yeah? Before them coming here. And then you're supporting all of this distortion and mutilation. And it doesn't stop there. You got people want to go under the knife and look like catfish, or turn themselves into some kind of, one of their favorite women superheroes or something, it's these distortions is believing in these man-made laws is going to create more distortion inside of you, because you're dealing with you're disaligning, you're out of alignment with what natural law is, which is a reflection of universal truth, you see. And so when you're dealing with these words and you're going on like, say, we'll use the word consideration, we use the word identity, and it doesn't matter where the root of the word coming from. So you're saying things and you're setting up energies and vibrations that are not even in alignment with what you're what you're relating it to. You see, this contributes to confusion in the mind. This contributes to why many people can't really get on, because you could be speaking the same language, but you're not really comprehending. Even though you speak the same language, you're not comprehending what another is actually conveying. How, therefore, are you going to comprehend yourself accurately to understand what your intrinsic identity is? So then what I was saying last Tuesday was that, well, look at the word identity. It comes down to meaning sameness. Hence why you would use the word, when something you think looks the same, you say that's identical. So that's telling you the root of where the word identity, idem, yeah? Idem comes from. And therefore it means sameness. But yet what we are using to fight, defend, hold on, even create wars based upon this word identity, and not even taking the time to even look and understand what it really means. This is the ignorance that's really prevalent, because we will use words and we don't really care what it means, as long as we have a meaning of what it means. So then you can have certain words then just turn into slang, twist up. Everything just get twist up. So now, you know, you even have the youth them using a term called, man, that's ill, man, for something that's really good. I mean, look now, I remember growing up and you hearing the word wicked. I mean, wicked before we said wicked to determine good. Wicked as in good. Wicked was wicked, bro. You know what I mean? Somebody did something wicked, it was wicked. If something good was done, it was good because of the based on the effects. You know? It was based on the effects from the cause. You know, something wicked, you know what I mean? You would end up experiencing some very uncomfortable, you know, a very uncomfortable, you'd be discomfort, man. You know, something wicked done. You could experience something, you know, uncomfortable emotionally, physically, or mentally. And when something good is done, it's like something agreeable has been done to you, or something agreeable you're experiencing. You know, it lines up with the vibration. But now what we're doing, we're distorting words. We're distorting, you know, by taking things out of their term and think that it's cool. Yeah? Something's ill, you know what I mean? I know. But so ill now means that something is good. Now check it out. Now, healthy, yeah? Whole up mental illness are gone. But people use the term mental health to study mental illness. It's like, what? And health means wholeness. So what about, so if you're saying, yes, we need to know the truth of mental health, you mean the truth of mental wholeness. Okay, let's get in there. But actually, you're going to talk about mental illness. You understand what, you see the confusing thing? And basically, the origin of mental illness is when you step out of that wholeness, or acknowledging the whole state of yourself. Yeah, the wholeness of your natural state. You see? The wholeness of your natural state is the natural state. That's where you begin. Yeah? Separation comes after. But then that's actually an illusion. You see? Because really, what you're thinking is two opposites, opposing forces, are two extremes of the same thing. Hot and cool is two extremes of the same thing. And then what you're looking at as separate again, if you're going to turn around and talk about east and west, the two separate points, yeah? Well, if you was to walk, if you was facing your back to the west and facing the east, and you walk towards the east, well, it is known that if you continue walking and you walk far, you keep walking, eventually you're going to come to a point where you're going to come back around towards west. So you're walking due east to eventually come to the point where you're actually now walking towards the west. So basically, it's telling you these two extreme points eventually meet up and that they're connected. So what you're looking at as separate and this idea of separation, look upon this, right? And the word of opposite, to say that it's opposing. You got opposing forces. Really, you're dealing with two extremes of the same thing. Two polarities of the same thing. Hot and cold, wet and dry, sharp and blunt. You see what I'm saying? High and low. These are two extremes of the same thing. So therefore, the same thing that you're believing is separate and divided originally were unified. In itself, it knows it's the same thing. Two extremes are the same thing. So unity is the origin. And then polarity comes through this from out of unity, which is then being given the term separation to make you believe, say, there's not a wholeness to yourself. And then you create this idea of separation, which is actually two polarities. Two polarities are two extremes of the same thing. You see, two terminals plus or minus on the battery is actually two extremes of the same thing. Electric, magnetic. You understand? Because the electric current actually generates a magnetic field, and a magnetic charge or magnets running along a conduit, will generate an electric current. So you got the electromagnetic, magnetic, electric. You see, it's in one another. You see, but we've got this idea of separation, and we think we got to come back to some wholeness from being separate, when actually you're already whole, because separate is an illusion. But hey, y'all, you see what I mean? The way you think and what you believe, because you're not. You see, research means to search again. Some people may just look something up, and they see the first thing that comes up, and then, yeah, man, I've done my research, and I therefore know this. And it's like you don't know it, because you have to search again, go through. You have to kind of flip more leaves of the page in the book to really get into what, to penetrate deep into, beyond the superficial surface knowledge of what you're seeking to gain. You got to move through more of the pages. You got to get deeper in. You got to search again. Research. That's what it means. Yeah? Or some would say, research, the search for Ra, within. Yeah, we got to play on words and all of that. But you see how these words start to get twisted up. And it begins to twist up the way you think. Slang is now twisting up the way you're emotionally lining up energy within your own self. So we're using words now, back to the point, identity. Big. We use the word identity, and we just want to get all emotionally about the word identity. And as I said, we get emotionally about words and not even knowing what they mean. Because a lot of people don't think that's important, you see. And yet, is there clarity? Is there more harmony coming around because of that lack of, that lack of interest? So when I chat about identity, you see, it means sameness. So I was asking, well, if identity, therefore, meaning sameness, what is it therefore that you're identifying with that is the same as you? What essentially is you? What is it that you are the same as, and that which is the same as you, which then qualifies or would qualify to be your identity? And then when you use the word identity and identification, usually you then see that people want to be the same as what they're trying to identify with. Yeah. So you're looking outside of yourself, and this is somebody with locks, and your hair don't grow that way naturally. But now you can, go in a hairdresser and put that thing on your head. And now you're identifying. You see what's going on? What you're identifying with is what you now want to be the same as. But you can't be the same as that, because there's something there, because your hair different. So it's not going to look what you're trying to make it look the same as. You see, you're trying to identify. You see, this is why I'm saying the word identity means the same. So that's what you're trying to do. So then when we end up chatting about identity, and we're fighting over identity, defending identity, people dying and killing others based on identity, yeah, we're getting all mess up. Because now, what are you identifying with? What are you saying is the sameness of you? So, all right, so we say a skin color. You see, when you deal with skin color, You're dealing with caste system. You're not dealing with identity. You see, when you're dealing with black, you know, brown, yellow, red, white, you're dealing with a caste system. That's not identity. And this come out from what? World place, what? India, which has a caste system. You get the ones who are lighter considered to be, yeah, the ones who are paler were considered to be closer to the light. And those who are darker were considered to be closer to, further away from the light. You see, you're dealing with black and white as symbology, representing not identity, but actually what it symbolizes based on what it's representing, yeah, in consciousness, or representing within a structure of a system, okay, to gain an understanding about, you know, something. So when you're dealing with color, to say that's your identity, you're dealing with a car system. And now you're making a car system become your identity. And now you're defending something that isn't even your identity. Because you can't say that, okay, all right, your identity, we're black. Or identity is white. You notice you don't hear people run around saying, I'm defending brown people or yellow people or pink people. And you do have people who are yellow. You have people, when I say people who are, you see their skin connotation is more close to yellow. You have people whose skin connotation is obviously more brown. And then you have people, yeah, you have people who are pink. They actually look more pink than white. And then you have people that look kind of a bit creamy. And then you have people who look powdery white. And then you have people who are darker brown. And then you have people who you could say is black. Because they look closer to that than the lighter brown. But really when you look upon it, it's still just darker shade of brown. So look upon all of this. Different shades, different connotations, different tonations. And then we're going to talk about our identity, which means the same, is all caught up in that. Which obviously can't be identity. Because there's no sameness in there at all. Let's be real. And really what you're dealing with is a caste system. Yeah? Just like you'd have the upper class and the lower class. And then you get this in-between, middle class. Yeah. You got working class. You know? Class. Where are you being classified? Yeah? So you're dealing with a caste system where you end up being cast off into where you being classified, what you being classified in the group, yeah, pertaining to the caste that you belong to. You know, see what it is. But that's not your identity. That's dealing with a caste system, yo. That comes from that's an Indian thing. When you go back into the old, you know, Indo-European business, when you're dealing with all of this caste system, you know, those who know about the Dravidians and how they were treated, the untouchables, huh? All of this is dealing with prejudice and separation and fears, inner fears and projection. Yeah, projection onto others what you're neglecting in yourself to work out on. I talked about archetypes the other time. I talked about a few Tuesdays ago about projection, the science of projection. All of this stuff is going on. What you neglect in yourself, you project on out there, pal. You know, people and places just become a screen now for your projections. You're not even seeing the uniqueness of that, the other. You know, yeah, that's standing there. You know, you don't see that they're a living, breathing, conscious being. Also, no, they're just a screen for your projections to be casted upon. You see what goes down. So anyway, keeping it onto the topic of identity. Obviously, your skin color can't be that. But here we are, talk about identity. We'll use the word identity and don't even know that it means the same and don't realize that, well, therefore, what you're talking about, using the word, the context you're using identity in is not actually qualified. Because this is what you're using to say, where is all a certain kind. That's not true. That's not true. You understand? And then, you know, and folk will get upset about that. They will defend. Listen, you get people defending a color. And then that color is not even a color. It's a state. Black is a state. Anyway, even and then you got this white thing. It's like, well, bloody heck, I can stand next to a refrigerator, right? You know, white. You know, stand next to a, you know, a freshly white, what you call it, washed wall, and then you have who you consider a white person stand next to that. Now, excuse me, y'all, they ain't gonna blend in with the mother flipping refrigerator. You can see a total different complexion with the white refrigerator and somebody who you're calling white. So, do you see what's going on here? You see, we're using things to so-called classify or qualify our identity, which does not even mean what the word actually instates. Yeah? You know what I'm saying? Because as I said, the word, look, research the word. I know I've said look it up before. Well, I actually mean research your thing. Search again. Search a thing again. Search into it so you can see for yourself. Then you'll see how a lot of things have also been moved around intentionally to confuse you. Okay? So identity is a big thing because it's coming out of people mouth all the time. This is what they have a belief about a belief. You see, here we go about a belief. You see, when we believe something, we behave a particular way. No one behaves any particular way if they did not believe what they believed. And then from that belief is generated thoughts and feelings. Yeah? That are coming from those beliefs. And then, you know, the core belief, what core belief someone would have to react a certain way based upon what they believe. Yeah? In order, which would end up being kind of like yeah, this is now their program, their self-concept. This is what determines how they interpret life. Your belief system determines how you interpret life. And your belief system, your core belief system, is what actually determines, I should say, how you interpret your life. Yeah, what your sense of self-concept is based around. And metaphysically, as a man thinketh, so shall he become. You see? Because if you got science today telling you that various experiments can be actually affected by the consciousness, by the observer, observing the experiment, the observer can influence the outcome. So it's saying that your awareness of something actually can influence that thing that you're observing. You know, if you're observing a particle, if you're observing energy, it becomes a particle. When you're not observing it, it turns back into a wave. All of these type of things, right, is alluding to tell you that, look, man, you know, your state of consciousness and what you're aware of determines how you then experience. Your experience is going to be, because what you believe, your belief system creates your inner structure, and then that inner structure in your consciousness that's being derived from your belief system then now outpictures in the physical world, in the outer world. Basically, everything is your mental state externalized. And we know that's flipping true. Because based upon what an inner state of somebody is how they're going to express and behave. Because of what they believe, what they're holding in their consciousness, what they're consciously aware of. So what they're consciously aware of being is what they become. And then people then call that identity. If you're consciously aware of being, you know, if you're aware of being broke and poor, that's what you're creating. You know, if you're aware of being wealthy and, healthy, then that's what you're also creating. That becomes the outer reflection. And when you're dealing with environment, for example, the word environment begins with the prefix en, which means within, as in encourage, envelope, endocrine system. You see what I'm saying? Engage. It means to be enveloped or encompassed, surrounded by. You see what I mean? So when you're talking about environment, we usually look outside and don't realize, but you've got an inner environment. Everything starts from where what's taking place within inside of you. You know, you even have people even say, oh, what's going on inside of your mind? What are you thinking? You know, is that you holding that in your mind, in your mind, not out your mind. And anyway, even when you say out of your mind, that's deriving that you would have had to have been in your mind, and now you're out of your mind. You're no longer in a healthy state. Yeah, you're no longer yeah. Basically, you need a question. Yeah, your outlook on stuff. You're out of your mind. You got to question your thinking process. You know what I mean? You got to question your state. Yeah, what kind of state is that? Is it healthy? Or is it unhealthy? You know, all of this type of stuff. But the thing is, truth comes from and life comes from the inside out, never from the outside in. But when you're dealing with unnatural law, natural law is a distortion. Man-made law is a distortion of natural law, okay? And when I say man, I'm talking about the species, man and woman. So let's not kind of get, you know, misconstrued in what I'm saying. So when I'm chatting about identity, y'all, the word means the same. So what are you the same as? What is it? What are you the same as? Essentially. And essentially means essentially. Essence. Yeah? What's essential? Not stuff that, you know what I mean, you're carrying, you can't do, you know, you can't make no use of it. You know, just becomes heavy baggage. No, you cast off all what is not essential. That's not necessary, and you're already left with what is essential. You get what I mean? The essence. So identity. There's a big, you know, big hoo-ha. Everybody have fight and even kill up and big arguments and over identity. And as I'm saying, the word means the same, yet the word identity is not being used in that connotation because many people are confused with, you know, again, they're dealing with the superimposed emotional made-up meanings that you now then become attached to. Now, what you're attached to, you see, then you end up using the word identification, but you have an emotional attachment to something. You can have an emotional attachment like a child to a security blanket, or you can have an emotional attachment to a pair of shoes, or my favorite pair of shoes. You can have an emotional attachment to some clothes. You can have an emotional attachment to another person, but that ain't your identity, is it? But because of the emotional attachment, you're going on like it's your identity is actually going to be taken away from you if you were to let go of what you're emotionally attached to. And the word identity means the same. Now, therefore, what you got is a lot of people trying to make themselves look like, be like, what they want to identify with. All right, check this out. Because they want to be the same as that. Now, the thing is that we're all unique. We're all going to be uniquely different. There's diversity amongst, you know, the species of what you call humanity down here. All right. And it's as if to say there is a term when you're saying we're all the same. As if to say we must now ignore that which is not the same about us. And the thing is, this is where you're dealing with a paradox, because you're dealing with polarity, right? You're dealing with, hang on a minute, you got same and difference. You see, that's polarity. Now, if you're dealing with opposition, you're going to see that you may think, oh, that's separation. You see, that's, you know, this idea of separation is something you need to kind of really separate. Yeah, to separate, to disunify something from itself. But you really can't do that. It's only a mental illusion. It's a perception. It's a false perception. Separation is really a false perception. Yeah. When you understand what your essential nature is to that which you truly are the same as. When it says intrinsic, when you get the term intrinsic identity, you're going to be dealing with what is your natural identity. So therefore, there's an unnatural identification that we're Attached to. You see that? Emotionally attached. Yeah, we experience anxiety when we are separated or have to separate, detach from what we're emotionally attached to, because we're deriving a sense of emotional security, or then we then use the word identity, sameness from. Okay? Look, man, this thing is essential to understand because it's how you're relating to your own self. Okay? So I was saying about identity. What's the meaning of identity? And the meaning of identity literally is sameness. It means that which is the same. So if we're going to then, we talked about skin color. Well, that cannot be the identity because we all got different type of shades, tones of skin. And really, if you're dealing with skin color, you're talking about caste systems. Yep. Just like you got working class, middle class, upper class, all of that type of stuff. It's a casting system which classifies you. You see what I mean? You're being classified based upon what caste you belong to. You see? But that's not your identity. Yeah, that's because obviously you've seen a diversity amongst things. Even that which is supposed to, you could say, oh, that's the same. Well, not all people of color are the same. Not all black folk are the same. Not all white folk are the same. Not all Chinese people are the same. Indian people are the same. Russian, Polish. They're not all the same. And then these are labels. These are labels giving you definition to define this and define that. And then please research the word definition, because it means to set limits and bounds to and give, you're creating an ending of something because it's got a limitation. You know what I'm saying? And yet we don't care about this. Yet we want to get really uppity about words, and you're using words and my identity and get all emotional and even to the point where the emotions turn destructive. And those destructive makes you now want to attack someone because you feel your identity, which is basically usually not identity, it's what you're emotionally attached to. Like a child is emotionally attached to a security blanket. It's all tore up, it's all rip up, but it's deriving a sense of security from this externalized attachment. It's created an emotional fusion with identity. Yeah. And then the more you pull away that blanket, it's what it's fighting. It's like gonna grip on tighter. Its grip's gonna get tighter. So you know what I'm saying. So this thing about identity, you see, is huge, and it shouldn't be taken lightly, because it's more than what you're actually believing it to be, and yet people are defending things that is not even them. It's not who and what they are. This is how deep this stuff is. This is what I'm saying. These are natural laws, man-made laws, creates confusion. All right. And it also makes people live within delusions. And if you look up the word delusions, please, I said research it. Don't just look it up. Because when you get it etymologically, you see that the word is derived to deal with mockery and play. Yeah. Delusion. Now, a lot of people are deluded, and they want to believe what they want to believe, even if they're deluded. This is what I'm saying, man. So it comes down to the fact that everybody is responsible for themselves. Okay, and then look at the word respond. The word responsible. Respond means to answer, and able is the ability to do so. Yet you're going to look at the word responsibility and take it totally out of its context because you've been conditioned to relate with something in a way that it's not. I mean, it's quite hilarious in certain ways. You know what I'm saying? If you just really just take time to think about that. You know what I'm saying? Many people are too damn ass lazy. They live vicariously. They let somebody else do all the research. Let somebody else do all the thinking. And then they just regurgitate back that to them. And then they just regurgitate, they just speak off what other people have said. But they've never done any research themselves to understand, hey, if it's so, if it's so, it's so. If that's the so, it go. But it don't. Let's be real. A lot of people are vicarious. They live vicariously. Usain Bolt, he runs, he busts the 3, You know, he wins 3 gold medals. Everybody else around who did not do the running, jumping up and celebrating like they the one who ran. That's called vicarious. This is where you get the word vicar from. And vicar means to put in place. So vicarious means be putting something in place for the other. Yeah? So putting something else in place of the actual thing. So a vicar now is being put in place in the place of the Christ. Okay? The Christ principle you're supposed to directly be communicating with. Yeah? Think about that. So this is where the word vicar comes from. Vicarious. If we're dealing with the English so-called as language. So people are living vicariously. They don't know. They don't have a direct insight about what it is that they're regurgitating from what they've heard. So they live vicariously and live as if to say they did all the research, they did all the work. And they didn't do nothing. They sat there on their sofa. Okay? That's what's going down. So don't be vicarious. Be the authentic thing in whatever it is. You see? So identity, part 2. Yeah? Where am I coming from with it? I think you should be getting closer now, clearer now what I'm talking about. So then let's highlight then, let's pinpoint this identity then. So we see that people can try to identify with that they want to be the same as, but they're not the same as that. No matter what you try to do, you're not going to be the same as that. Yeah? And why would you want to be the same as something that you're not the same as? You see, we're not here to ignore our differences. We're here to actually realize that your differences is what makes you unique. Yeah. But underlining that diversity, which is the uniqueness, the difference, which that differentiation, you originally come from an undifferentiated state, which then differentiated itself to then manifest in diverse ways, which really is diversity is division. Okay? You're dividing itself, right? You look at the words, yeah? And it's then from the undifferentiated state, it becomes differentiated. So the root of the difference is in the sameness. But out of the sameness comes unique, individualized, yeah, different, diverse expressions of the same thing. Let's give an example, another one. We talk about plates. We got plates, we got cups, okay? You got vases, you know, you got bowls. And you would see that you got the clay and you got the potter's wheel, all right? And then from the clay placed upon the potter's wheel and the water from this substance called clay, you can have quite a diverse, you know, a very a diverse array of forms, yeah, sculptured from the clay. So you can get a cup, you can get a vase, you can get a plate, you can get a dish, you know, same thing. You can get now even forming a clay horse or a giraffe, or, you know, whatever you can conceive in your mind, you can formulate out of clay that which you envision. Now the thing is, you're going to see a diversity of different formations that clay, right, that clay produced, or what was produced from that clay. But the thing is, within that diversity, there is a similarity, there is a sameness, and that sameness is now going back to what's essential. The essential material that all of those diverse expressions from that one material came from, which is all the clay. The clay is the same substance that all of those diverse forms, shapes, you know what I mean, for whatever purposes you're going to make them to fulfill, they all came from the clay. But they're diverse in their form, in their shape, in their purpose. You get what I'm saying? And they're meant to be. Otherwise, you'd have a boring ass flipping life, you know? Everybody just looks at their same. Everything's just the same. In fact, this is where people kind of call mundane. Yeah? Same old, same old. You know? So variety, what I say, variety is the spice of life. Variants, variations, yeah, of the same thing. But if you ain't identifying what the same thing that unites you to everything else that appears on the surface to be different, then you don't know what your identity is. Listen to what I've just said, yo. If you don't know what the sameness, which actually qualifies what the word identity actually means. If you don't know what the sameness that you is of, and is the same as you, and you're the same as it, then you do not know what your essential identity is. What you are actually defending and identifying with, we use the word, is the diversity of the form. And now one feels that difference is something to be threatened by. Do you see what this means? Because you're not secure in whom and what you are. Your identity. What's the sameness? You see, a lot of folk ain't dealing with what I'm saying here. They're thinking that their garments is their identity. Their skin tone and color is their identity. What we wear on our head is our identity. You understand? You know, watch the work you do. Oh, yeah. Your occupation. This is your identity. Do you see what's going on? And we want to know why there's so much damn confusion. You know, you got people, you know, you got others blowing up others, you know, killing others because of this identification. And this identity is very, very insecure. And as I said, the word identity means same. But a lot of folk ain't defending or dealing with identity, even though they use the word and they think that's what they're dealing with. They're dealing with the fear of difference. And their belief system, which becomes the structure of what determines how you interpret life, they're not secure in it. So if your belief system, whatever you believe, you feel it's being challenged, it's threatening, then what happened? Folk go on the attack because they're deriving some sense of identity. Look at this, right? From a belief system. And we all know that the belief systems are very diverse. Yeah. People all don't believe the same thing. So you're dealing with the diversity. So you're dealing with, when people talk about truth, it's relative, and there's a diversity of truth. So what is truth? And you hear in so-called courts of so-called law, you have the term, you know, you still have to swear on the Bible and say, you know, do you swear that you will tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? So why they talk about the whole truth? Because they know that whole, the total, the absolute, that which comprises, is comprised of the totality. That is what truth is. Because when you're dealing with relativity, well, that ain't the total truth. That is just what someone, whoever chooses to believe, that will be true to who owns that belief. But it's not the totality. It's not the wholeness. And then, as I said, everything originates from the wholeness, not from separateness. You understand me? And as I said, that separation is actually an illusion. Because what you're seeing is separate, which then you think you create the idea of opposition. Yes, these are concepts. These now become beliefs, and you create these things because you're not seeing reality as it is. You're caught up in an illusion or a distortion of what natural law is. So you see, yeah, what you're calling separation is actually two points or polarities of the same thing. You know? Yeah. Like the two hemispheres of your brain, like your right and your left hand, or your right and left foot, or your head to your feet. These are polarity points. These are polarity points. And if you're going to say that, oh, well, my right hand is separate from my left hand, and you're thinking of separation, when really, because it came together and went apart, but it's still unified within itself. Both your hands are still attached to the torso of your body. Natural, when you observe natural law, you'll see, just observing yourself, just even observing this body and how it's constructed, you'll see that wholeness is the reality. And that which appears to be separate is actually not. It's an extreme of the same thing, or a polarity point of what the other part is a reflection of the other part of itself, is a reflection of itself, another part. Light and dark. These are two extremes of the same thing. It enables you to understand or appreciate, opposites. You know, you appreciate dark when there's too much light. You need to switch up so you can rest your senses and close your eyes. You appreciate light when there's just too much darkness obscuring any vision. You get what I'm saying? So you then see how both of them have their own quality, and therefore you appreciate them both. There's not a this versus that and that versus this. This comes through the illusion of separation. Yeah. Because everything is actually whole. Even the word individual, you as an individual, it means you're an indivisible duality. And jewel is two. But then it takes two to tango, as they say. Or you have a bout in a duel, two men sword fighting or something. Because it takes two to what? Correspond. Yeah? Convey, and a receiver of what's being conveyed. Receiver, transmitter. So you see? So you're dealing with two extremes of the same thing in order for you to even have the experience of relating. And you're relating with what? Another aspect of yourself. You see? So you got polarity, yo. And polarity is the first mutable law when we're dealing with universal and natural laws. Okay? Polarity. You start off with the three immutable laws, which is the unchanging, indestructible principle, universal law, universal principle. And principle relates to source. The source of what is the source of that which is coming from it is built upon the source. Principle. Yeah? But opinions are man-made. And why they say, when it comes to opinions, opinions are many, principles are few. Opinions often change, principles never do. You see? So you want to deal with the principle rather than opinions. Because now you're dealing with the source of things. And I'm talking about principle, which ends with L-E, not principal with A. You see, people don't even see that there's a difference between the word principle and principal. Yeah. That's why they say principalities, not principle. Yeah, that's what you're fighting against, principality. Principal means chiefs. Okay, that's which sets itself up as chief. Principle, on the other hand, that's related to the source, foundation. Hence you got Prince. Anyway, let me not go off course here. So, so you're dealing with So when we're dealing with identity, you need to think deeply, because you see what's happening here is that we're in a time where it's about liberating liberating oneself from all these man-made beliefs, all of these societal, social, cultural conditioning. Yeah? That the soul incarnates into what they call the human condition. And that confines you in a illusionary, it gets you caught up in whom and what you're essentially not. Okay? So then you end up experiencing limitation. And that limitation then becomes what has been termed the fetters of the soul. So then now the soul incarnates in here in order to liberate itself from those limitations which come with the human condition. And a lot of folk think that they are here for this personality that they're identifying with, when you are here because of the soul, because of the divine, the consciousness that has even constructed this body. You see what a lot of people are doing? It's like you're taking care of the shoes, polishing the shoes, shining it up, making sure there's no scuff in it. You're really taking care of the shoes while you neglect your feet. Yeah. That's what's going on. You're taking care and putting a whole heap of attention on your shoes, polishing it up and everything, while you neglect your feet. Mull on that for a little bit. That's comedy. So, this identity, y'all. Identity. What is the same? Are you the same as? So you see all this diversity. Now the diversity is expression of difference, and that we're here not to be carbon cop-outs or carbon cutouts. You got carbon cop-outs, carbon cutouts. Yeah. Now, what comes from carbon? We want to talk about carbon-based beings. We want to talk about carbon as melanin, you know, and then you got melanin, you've got neuromelanin, and you have neomelanin. And the neuromelanin is not the same as the neomelanin. And do you see, when you're dealing with identity and you're going to talk about the neomelanin and not understand the neuromelanin, then we're dealing with something superficial that we think is what your identity, check it out. Identity means the same, and you're not the same. You got different tones. But if you're going to talk about neuromelanin instead of neomelanin, and the neomelanin is related to the pigmentation, the melanocytes. But the but the neuromelanin, you're talking about nerve cells, brain cells, nervous system. All right? So you're talking about an organizing molecule now. You're talking about something that is organizing and essential to the organizing of any structure, any life form, how it's been organized to grow into what it's to be or what it's to represent. And then that's universal. That's universal, meaning that's in everything and everywhere. So it's not limited to the neomelanin, which is surface, the skin. Y'all people. You see, a lot of folk ain't researching themselves. So your sense of security is coming from what you believe. And if you're not secure in what you believe, you will then feel challenged. And then you're going to react in an insecure way and feel that you're attacked. And then now what ends up happening, people are going to fight and kill others based upon what they believe. Because what you believe determines how you interpret life. What you believe is where your behavior comes from, because you do not behave any ass way separate from a belief that you hold, independent of a belief that you hold. Your behavior comes from what you believe in. Because that becomes the inner structure of your consciousness. That's what's, yeah. So then, identity. So we want, why is identity so important? Identity is so important based upon the sense of belonging you get with what you're identifying with, and say, I am the same. I see you in me. I see me in you. But then that sameness is same. That sameness is where you're now going to experience the oneness. Now, when you deal with what's superficial, what's on the surface, obviously, you're not going to be actually seeing no oneness, no sameness, because there's the diversity of expression. But when I gave the example about the clay, and how from that substance, clay, you can have a diversity and a multiplicity of different forms, shaped, molded, drawn out from that clay. And it could all be, glazed and painted differently, got all different colors, different shapes, different purposes. But you see, what they essentially all have in common is the material, the substance that they were all drawn out from. Now, identity is now taking on a deeper connotation now, isn't it? Because, one, we are here to acknowledge our own diversity. People who see diversity or difference or uniqueness as a threat because they're not secure within whatever belief system that becomes the structure for their way of interpreting life, or what they're using to build their self-concept upon, to what then governs their self-perception, then they will feel threatened to anything that they feel challenges that sense of belief or what they're believing in, how they interpret life. So there's an insecurity, and it's based on insecurities that make people feel they need to what? Attack, fight, hold on, or attack. Hold on to what they feel they're emotionally attached to, that they believe makes them feel secure, and attack that which they feel threatens that sense of security. Come on, y'all, this is real. Because you're dealing with the inner psychological and emotional impulses that motivate people to do whatever they're doing. And if you're not going to be realizing that's where everything you see expressed in the outer screen, or what you call out there, if you don't realize it's all coming from within, then you're definitely out of touch with yourself. You're dealing with denial. You're dealing with neglect because you don't want to look within, and you want to deal with projection. And then as you're projecting, you want to make out there what you're projecting your unresolved stuff upon, the cause, the source. Now check this out. You're going to make outside to be the cause, then that makes you the effect. And therefore you will always be the effect as long as the cause out there remains the way it is. And you can unchanged. Now, to change the effect, you have to change it at the causal level. So now if you believe that the cause is outside there, you will always be the effect. And this is how people have been conditioned. You are dictated to by the outside. So all you have to do is sit there and look at something that, oh my gosh, it brings up what? It brings up reactions inside of yourself. You're the effect. And now out there is the cause of what is bringing up what's inside of you. But the thing is, outside is only a reflection of what's already inside of you. You know, if somebody went to somebody's backyard and was digging up the backyard, some old family property, digging up the backyard and found, shit, dead bodies in the ground. You don't say that the person who dig up the backyard put the dead bodies in there. No, all they did was dig up to bring forth what was already within and buried in the earth. So I'm giving that. So you know, they come from the outside, dig up, and find, oh shit, some dead bodies, yeah, on the inside. But they never put the dead bodies on the inside. They just came and dug it up from the outside and, oh, revealed it, made it now, oh shit, exposed. Okay. So really, the outside is acting as a catalyst to bring up in one what's already there. Because if it wasn't there, whatever comes up didn't come up. It wouldn't come up. If there's no dead bodies in that part of the ground that was being dug up, then you wouldn't find no dead bodies there. So basically, what people are looking at as the cause, external, is not a cause, it's a catalyst. Okay? And a symbolic representation of what is actually going on inside oneself, or what is residing unconsciously within oneself, that is now being triggered and activated by what's reflecting from the outside. Okay. What's reflecting from the outside, this what you would call revelation of what is now coming up from within. And these feelings, these impulses are generated from the unconscious. So you see, you got things that you can say the conscious, the digger, yeah, is making conscious to oneself what was unconscious, buried within. You see what I'm saying? I'm giving these analogies. But you can only have what comes up within you there because it was there already. You see? So, wow. So anyway, we're dealing with identity. Identity crisis. You even have them terms. Identity crisis. Identity crisis. Well, that's what you got. You got an identity crisis going on, yo. Crisis of identity. Because really what people are calling identity is not really identity. It's the emotional attachment to that which they are trying to identify with in order to derive some sameness from, to feel a sense of belonging to. Let's be real. Let's be real. See, you may end up having folk, you know, refuting what I'm saying. Or am I talking, you know, because what it's bringing up is what you want to hold on to as your identity. And still, as I said, the word identity means the same. And what you're identifying with is not making you the same. That's not the same. That's not the, don't use the word identity then. That's basically what I'm saying. And then I could turn around and say, well, then we use the term culture. Yeah, this is whatever you are, you know, wherever you come from. This pertains to y'all. So you see what I'm talking about is not limited to, you know, color, race, or creed. Come, think now. Yeah, because everyone is dealing with this shit. All right, everyone is dealing with an identity crisis. All right. So you even got what you got? Identity thieves. Oh man, it's crazy. You see, false identity. Oh shit, you know what I mean? You got identity politics. You know, which party are you identifying with? You see, and the word isn't even fucking what it means. Excuse me. You know what I mean? It isn't. As I said, the word means sameness. So really, we're using words out of context and getting really emotionally, you know, snapped out of joint. And then you don't even know and you feel you're defending something. You don't realize all you're defending is some mental illness. Yeah, I'm being real on the top, though. So, and I'm saying this because in this time it's about deconditioning of the unconscious in order to liberate, your soul from the conditions. Yeah, your conditioning, your societal and cultural conditioning, which have been steeped within man-made laws, which are distortion of natural laws. When the soul uses natural law as the foundation of its own, of its own structure that it uses to interpret life. All right, y'all. All right, y'all. I'm telling you. You see, the time we're living in now, you see, the old separative thinking, the old separative consciousness of Piscean age has come to an end. You're dealing with I know. And there's a term, who feels it knows it. And to know something, to know anything is to become one with the thing for you to know. That's the only way you know it. You cannot know something through mentally, intellectualizing about it. Yeah, you don't know something based upon your mental comprehension or gathering of information that is organized within the framework of your mind that you're using to qualify what you say you know. Thinking about something, talking about something, debating about something is still not knowing the thing at all. But to know something, if I'm going to use the word thing, to know means you have to become one with that you desire to know. So then now you're not talking about it, you're talking from it. You're not thinking about it, you're thinking from it. You're not, you're not trying to be it, you're being it. You see what I'm saying? So that's another level to go, which means to know you got to go beyond your mind and the mental framework that has been derived from all your information gathering from the external. It's dependent upon the external. It means that you'd have to go within and connect and tune in to that which is beyond the mental dependency on external gathering of information. Last Tuesday, I did go into the cosmic astrological weather. And what a lot of people are not taking into consideration, if you're still there with me, follow me what I'm saying, consideration means to examine the stars. Because they're not considering, they're not examining the stars above to realize the correspondence of as above, so below. Yeah. They're out of whack with natural law because you're not examining the stars. You're not taking the stars into consideration. You see where I'm going? And astrology is the study of the stars. And you are a star. Now, you take into consideration the stars because of the guidance the stars give you. Look, why you need a compass for? When you're making a long journey on a voyage in the sea or in the plane or on whether you're on sea or air, you need a compass. Now, the thing with voyaging on the sea, you know that the stars, the North Pole, for example, is used for guidance. You hear in the nativity play of the three wise men were guided by the star in the east, which directed them to the manger of where the Christ child were to be born. Listen, you see, even all of this nativity stuff, birth, native, that's what native means, natus, nat, to be born. Yeah. Yes. Is really metaphysical, cosmological. Because that manger is the sign of Cancer in the zodiacus. Because you're dealing with star constellations. The 12 star constellation corresponds to the 12 cranial nerves, okay, which run throughout from your brain throughout your whole body, throughout your whole nervous system, and is interconnected throughout your whole body. The 12 cranial nerves corresponds to the 12 constellations or star constellations in the heavens. As above, so below. Heaven, earth. So because one is not taking into consideration that which keeps them in harmony with natural law, because they are intrinsically, your true nature is natural, not artificial, not unnatural. You see? You got people taking what's unnatural for natural now, and what's natural is unnatural now. I mean, if you walked up and down and you was so healthy, you would shock people. You know, you're 70, 80, and you're looking like, fuck, man, you're like 40 years old. You look 50. Man, you look so good. People look at that like that's paranormal. They'll think that's beyond normal. Outside of normal, paranormal. They're thinking, that ain't natural. You must have, what's the trick? What? You must be a genius. There's something that they must be lacking that you possess. Do you see how crazy that is? Just the fact that you're healthy. Now, what it means that people are beginning to believe that health is unnatural. To be really healthy is not natural. To be ill and sick and unhealthy, oh, well, it's just a natural state, isn't it? It's to be expected. Nobody's perfect. You know, that's a Western Eurocentrical actual philosophy, if I'm going to even use that word on it. Nobody's perfect. You hear all of that. And the word perfect means complete. And I did say at the beginning, everything starts off holistic. That's the natural state of everything. Separation comes later on, which is actually a false perception. But then the power you have is that you can even believe in something that ain't even real, ain't even true. You can hold a false perception and give life to that too. And it will, and it has its own consequences. Every state of consciousness naturally will unfold the reality corresponding to that state of consciousness. It doesn't need to look outside of itself into a book to understand. Like, look, a tree don't look outside of itself to say how to grow into a tree. You know? You got self-organizing intelligence. And that's what universal consciousness intelligence is. That's what consciousness is. Which is why, depending on the state of consciousness one occupies, it's self-organizing. It will out-picture its own self because it's self-organizing intelligence. Remember, 90% of your bodily functions is done unconsciously. You're not conscious of the numerous operations taking place in your body to give you another nanosecond breath of life, another nanosecond living conscious experience, you know. You're unconscious of all of that, but yet there is a self-organizing intelligence within you operating, which is independent of you having to be consciously involved in that way. But you can be consciously, you can become conscious of the unconscious, which is what you're supposed to do. So you become conscious of the self-organizing intelligence that is innate within you and in everything. Hence, universal consciousness intelligence. So, talking about identity, and said, oh, sameness. And I think, you know, those of you tuned in, you get what I'm really getting to with, well, what would therefore classify and quantify identity that makes us the same? Makes us all the same, essentially. Which takes nothing away from the diversity. You see? Is people who are threatened by difference that perceive diversity as negative, because they want to negate that natural expression of life. They want to negate, what's natural. You see? You got a tree and you got leaves on its branches. Not all of them are the same. You see what I mean? But they're all growing on the same tree. You see what I'm saying? How you correspond, or how do you, reconcile two things that appear to be opposites, when really they're just two extremes of the same thing. You know, see how it go? Sameness and difference. Light, dark, black, white. Hey, yo. You see, you're in a time where unity consciousness, you have to remember and return back to it. It's not something that you're trying to create. It's something you have to remember. Which is why it's very important to recover, discover your intrinsic identity. Natural identity. That's what intrinsic is. Intrinsic, it's what's already within thyself, not what has been conditioned from external, not from what you've been born into at the societal and social and cultural conditioning. That's not the identity. That's the identity that's causing all the problem. Because you don't understand what your essential identity is, what your sameness is. You're identifying with what makes you different. And the difference is insecure with indifference. Many people are insecure with difference. They're threatened by difference. You even have the word xenophobia, fear of foreigners. Because the belief system that one is using to interpret life is what they're trying to derive a sense of identity from. And they're actually insecure within it. Which is why they react the way they react. So, wow. So, let me go play a tune right here, so now. By Burning Spear. We call Identity.
So they want I to change my identity. Musically. So they want I to change my identity. Musically, musically, some music race, commercial race, political race. Some music race, commercial race, political race. So they want I to change my identity. Musically, musically, musically. So they want I to change my identity. Musically, musically, musically. My identity, my identity. Your work must be done. 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 Work in the east, work in the west, work in the north, work in the south, work over there, we work over here, we work everywhere, work over there, we work over here, we work everywhere. So they want I to change my identity. Musically, musically, musically. So they want I to change my identity. Musically, musically, musically. My identity, my identity. Who will stand up for the people? Musically, musically, musically. Who will stand up for the people? Musically, musically, musically. So they want I to change my identity. Musically, musically, musically. My identity, my identity. Musically, musically, musically. The people is for the music. The music is for the people. Musically, musically, musically. So they want to change my identity. Musically, musically, musically. So they want to change my identity.
Yes, yes, yes. So they want her to change identity. Well, musically, yeah. So look here. The meaning of identity, I tell you, is the same. That's what it means, sameness. So the question would be, what is it that I am the same as and that which is the same as I? In its entirety, essentially, intrinsically, naturally. Because what we are dealing with when we are chat about identity is superficial, conditioned, societal, cultural. Yeah, what we are deriving a sense of identification from to say, oh, I'm the same as this, I'm the same as you. Superficially, you can even dress up in the same clothes or even say, all right, look, no, man, we all have the same color skin. But internally, you all have different ways of feeling, processing, yeah, thinking, all of the, there's difference, go on. And this is why unity is not something that comes on a superficial level. The more you project and look, oh, I'm dressed up in a this here uniform. Yeah, man, we got sun up here, sir. Yeah, with them. Hence you got uniform. Yeah, uniform. Look at that. Uniform. slip, which is something you wear, but it's trying to tell you your united form, uniform. But it's clothing. And really, that's about conforming. That's another form of conditioning. Even, I look how people just even react to a uniform. Somebody's walking in the police uniform. There's a certain inner reaction because you've been conditioned to look at that as a symbol of authority or what that uniform represents. Now, if that same individual was not wearing that uniform, you wouldn't have the same reaction that come up. So it's what it symbolizes and represents to you based on the conditioning of what you now, what you're now reacting from. The meaning it, authority external to you. When the truth is, the authority is, the only true authority is within yourself. But you see, you're drawn out, looking for identity out there, sir. And then you're dealing with the cultural, societal conditioning, which now becomes the authority outside of you that wields the decisions on what dictates how you should think and how you should relate and what you should relate to and with. And you see, it's all external manipulation and control. When I talk about intrinsic, think about it. Go look it up. Well, go research. Because it's something that's already within you. Whereas your societal and cultural conditioning is something you've been programmed from the outside of you. You've been conditioned with that. And I said, we're dealing with the time of where it's about the deconditioning of the unconscious in order to liberate the soul from this old paradigm which is on its way out. But it's going to be a tussle because many want to hold on to what they're emotionally attached to, which is the old worn out view and way of perceiving things. You see? And that's what you get when you're dealing with the old, having to make way for the new, because you're dealing with emotional attachments of what's familiar. And now, in order to grow, to move beyond what's familiar, in order for you to grow into something more, there is the feeling of anxiety that can be experienced, or that comes up when you are, made to have to let go of the banks in order to flow with the river. Yeah, your sense of security is need to hold on. But that holding on limits you from growing, expanding. And you are here, as I said, for your soul. Your soul knows where you're coming here so far. Your soul created this mind and body, this vehicle, to be the mediator for itself. Yeah, to fulfill its own agenda, fulfill its own mission. But as I said, you have some people, them taking care of the shoes, Them might polish the shoes, clean up the shoes. Yeah, man. Making sure no scratch, no nothing upon the shoes, while they're neglecting their own feet. Isn't that diabolical? I'm giving that analogy to show you the misfit of the situation really here. Yeah? That which is you, which is why you're even coming here. People are looking for a purpose and don't realize you're coming here with your purpose. Where the sun is in your chart is showing you how you're going to creatively actualize that purpose, which is your soul's purpose. And integrate it consciously into your waking awareness as you grow through the fulfillment or the fulfilling of your soul's purpose. But instead, many people are dealing with the structure and they also are dealing with the master who built it. You're dealing with we're dealing with the shoes and I deal with the feet. Yeah, take more time focusing upon the shoes, the vehicle, rather than that which is using the vehicle for its own purpose, to walk through. Otherwise, the vehicle don't have the purpose. The shoes have no purpose if no feet is going in it. Yeah? It's just sit on there. looking shiny. So diversity, you see, if you're going to deal with identity, you have to deal with diversity, because diversity indicates the difference and identity indicates the sameness. And then you have people that says, I don't see color, in order to try to make out that, you see this is stupidity. Because cause you see color, of course you have to acknowledge the difference. This is how you enjoy the variety and the uniqueness of everything. That's why life is so wow. Yeah, life can be so wow, because you're not just dealing with bland boiled rice. Doesn't matter, you just yam white rice every day. Just boiled white rice. Every grain in there is the same, yeah, in the color, but they're not necessarily the same in shape and size. But hey, it become what them call bland. But you add some other things to that rice, it becomes more interesting. You know, see what I'm saying? You're adding something else, some spice, some variations to the rice. I know everything spice up and everything, ooh, everything nice, as they would say. But the thing is, you're not here to go on like you don't notice the differences in shades, in character, in features, in dress, in customs. Yeah? No one's here to be a carbon copy of anybody else. That is what gives the unique expression of the sameness in diverse ways. Does that make sense? Look here. I will talk about identity, and I'm going to bring culture into this as well. Because here many people derive their ideologies based on levels of illiteracy. A lot of people don't read. And this is the truth. Come on. And them big. And they feel embarrassed to admit or to let anybody know it. Them can't read. Right? So, if somebody says something to me, them use a word, I don't get it. I go, what name, sir? What do you mean? So I can get some clarity. And I go, all right. For myself, I take responsibility, go look it up. So now it's like, when I hear that again, it doesn't like hit me like a brick. Like, what? You know, it's not. I'm not so dense to it. I have some. Okay, all right. So So you grow in your way of being able to comprehend what others are saying to you. You broaden your comprehensive ratio, if you want to say. Your comprehensive boundaries. You expand them. But you have a lot of people who are illiterate. And I'm not equating literacy to intelligence, because there's many people who they don't know how to read, but they're highly intelligent. They're creatively intelligent. All right? So let's not get that mixed up and misconstrued. But what I'm saying is that where I'm coming from is that many people are illiterate. So therefore, the way they use words and what they believe words to mean is completely out of its right now context. So this is how misconstruction and misstructuring, yeah, misconstruedness gets perpetuated. Yeah, people are use words out of its context, man. I want to tell you that, oh, it doesn't matter about the word, it's my intention. You know what I mean? Intention plays a role, but you have to understand how that is in its context. That plays a role within context. You know, that don't play a role out of context. And then you have to see the larger context that fits into. You know? So here we have the culture, you know. Enough people say, I'm a culture, me I defend, you know. And everybody about culture. But you see, when somebody speaks controversial to what people have been conditioned to be comfortable with, Yeah, to derive some sense of normalcy from. Them get like, where I talk, you see? Because it's like, you're not supposed to rock the boat, you know? And sometimes the boat need to get rock. Sometimes things need to get disturbed in order for laziness not to set in, or stagnation or dormancy to happen. Yeah, because life is a continual everlasting pulsation. Life is a pulsating, powerful force. And the nature of life is growth, health, nutrition, nourishment, regeneration, healing, fulfillment of every need, all working within a perfect, in a system of perfect law and order. You see, life has its own nature, its own identity. Yeah, its own sameness. Yeah. So you're dealing with growth and expansion. You're not dealing with stagnation. In fact, when something's static or stagnant, it's dead. It's on its way out. If you notice, something that doesn't have much life flowing through it becomes very stiff. While a dead body is rigor mortis. That's what I'm saying. Rigor mortis set in. It's rigid. It's dead. Morgue. Rigor mortis. Mortified, dead. Rigor, rigid. You know, see how these words compose together to give you, the state it's trying to describe. Yeah. So we all look upon culture. Culture and identity usually seems to be unanimous, or simultaneously, or synonyms, you know, is used kind of together. And when you deal with the word culture, I always see the word culture, cultivate, culture, cult, occult. You see the word in there? Cult, cultivate, culture. Yeah, and they will turn around and tell you, look, say, it's the Middle English. And because we're speaking English, you have to understand something in this context. Yes, when you speak other languages and deal with the derivation of where something's been derived from before it reached to where you find it, it's going to take on maybe a different interpretation. And yes, you must look at things in that way. This is why I'm saying enough people are illiterate. And I don't mean just because you've gone to school and you've got comprehensive school and you've learned, you know your ABC. Yeah? And you know basic words and what's not. I'm talking about there's a lot of words people use and they have never gone and looked and see where the root of that word come from. They've just regurgitated, repeated, répété, you know, like how you learn French in a school. Yeah? Well, when I was growing up, basically, them speak French and you have to repeat it. And by repetition, after you kind of remember, oh, this and that. But that's okay, so you remember what that is. What you've just said. You've repeated it enough to repeat it again to say, oh, you know that. But that's different from knowing the language now. Because if you was to go, now you have to go deeper and understand, well, there's masculine and feminine characters within the language. And how you have to put words together within the context of, making sense in the language that you're going to use. Otherwise, even in French, you have slang, which some French folk don't comprehend. They don't understand it because it's slang. Just like how many people that speak English, but you have a slang form of English. You have people who speak Jamaican, but you have you have slang form of Jamaican. You see how it go? And if you're not pivot to that slang, it's like you can't comprehend what somebody has said. And then if you're talking with people who don't understand that slang, then you can't make sense to them. You can only make sense with the people who understand that slang that you use. You get what I'm saying? And therefore, that means the more you slangify things, the smaller your group comes. Because you cannot ungle them people that use the same terminologies and understand that you can communicate with. You know what I'm saying? And then you have people who are multilingual. So they can understand or comprehend what other people are saying who speak different language to themselves, to their native tongue, so to speak. So you have enough people, though, what I'm saying is very illiterate. So they don't really know the meaning of very certain words. But they might use it, and they're using it out of context. And it's okay to be mistaken with certain things or have misunderstanding. Because through that, as you acknowledge, I didn't realize that, then you can be corrected. You can be put back on course. If you're going off course and you're receptive to the right information that can put you back on course, then you receive it. And then you're correct. You're cool. But it's when you lean on your misunderstanding is when you become a fool. And enough of folk are run around, of course, and things calling other people fool, and them is fool. You understand what I say? Because it's just one of them type of words. But I could even turn around and, anyway, I could take that word out and put that in a different context when you're dealing with tarot cards. The fool on the tarot deck. But, you see, show you how words have really been twisted and taken and, oh man, you know, and turned into other than what it originally started off to be. But because a lot of people, as I said, is very illiterate, this is where you get enough confusion. Because culture is not identity, and identity is not what people are associating identity with. If you're going to use the word and say you know what it means. Because it doesn't correlate with what you're using the word in its context. You're not using the word in its context. This is where you get confusion, and then people don't care about confusion. They will perpetuate the confusion. They don't want to be corrected. They will stay going off course and take everybody else off course who chooses to follow them. You see what I mean? If they're not using their own mind, realize, hang on. You know what I mean? You have your own inner guidance system. You know what I mean? Are you going to listen to, are you going to ignore that, you know, for what the majority wants to say? Huh? And the majority rules, they say. But the majority ain't always correct. Yeah? Just because the majority says so, it don't mean that the majority is correct. Because you can't get many people fooled. But I say you can fool some people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time. Why? Because you don't always get everybody following the majority of what, becomes the consensus thinking. So when you have this thing now I'm saying about culture, it's interesting. Because culture now is denoted to cultivating a piece of land. Which would be the first thing that actually kind of comes to your head. Culture, cultivation. But we have culture as in identity. You know, see what's going on here? When words are not being used in its right connotation, and you don't take the responsibility to think for yourself, to clear your own mind and your own thought process. You're just following things. Like you don't have your own feet to decide where you choose to walk. Yeah? Where you choose to go. So it's denoting a cultivation or cultivated piece of land. Now here's a funny thing. You see, a lot of these words we say is English. Actually, the noun comes from French. Culture. I might not even pronounce that the correct way. But there you go. Or directly from Latin. Cultura. Which actually breaks down in flipping English to mean growing. Right? Cultivation. You know what I mean? The action of growing. So the verb from, from French, cultere, or medieval Latin. Look at the little processes this flipping thing's going through. It's like going through a refinery, a filtering refiner, And it goes into medieval. Anyway, middle. That's what it is. So medieval Latin,
common, you know, obsolete in French culture, blah, 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 blah. And then you're dealing with culturari, both based on Latin colere. Oh my gosh. You see? Tend to cultivate. So basically, then you get Middle English, you know, where basically you're dealing with the Middle English was the sense was cultivation of the soil. And from this, you get what? Early 16th century arose the word cultivation of the mind, faculties, or manners. Culture. So basically you're dealing with, so now where you, how you see how culture gets related to identity is where you're getting how one's mind, faculties, or manners has been cultivated, how it's been grown to be developed. You know, see how it goes? So basic culture is how you've been raised, how you've been grown. Were you grown with good manners? You hear that? Have you developed and you're cultivating your mind, yeah, to be sharp, or dull? You see? Have you developed faculties of the mind? Have they been cultivated? So basically culture is basically dealing with growing, that which is, you're associated with that which is growth and development. How you were grown and developed. How your mind, how faculties, manners, or how, yeah, something's been grown and developed. That's then become your culture. How you being cultivated. So you see what's going on there? And if you're being cultivated or grown the same way, then there's going to be something familiar or similar to why you relate to another culture or a particular culture. You see how it goes? Which is why then you will turn around and derive identity from it. Which means the same. You see, I'm here freaking dewiring and tying knots here. And then you also have degrees of identification. And this comes into where you have to understand what this sameness that you are is really about, to then begin to line up to what identity is. So I use clay to derive the sense of sameness as an analogy to where diversity comes from, undifferentiated to differentiated states. Yeah? How sameness is also related to difference or diversity. Yeah? Because they're two polarities of the same thing. So basically what makes us all the same amongst the diversity that we obviously observe amongst ourselves and in nature? What the same, your identity, one and all, your sameness, your identity, same, intrinsic identity, intrinsic sameness, yeah? Oneness, yeah, is derived. What is it based on? Ultimately, it's based on consciousness. Yes. See how it all comes back to that. Consciousness. Consciousness, the universal liquid ocean of light. Yeah. Universal consciousness. Where you've derived your sense of identity, intrinsic, natural, sameness from. This is when you're dealing with identity. Now you're dealing with consciousness. And then you got the scale of consciousness. And what you identify with line up to become the same as, which means you'll have to be the same vibrational match to, is what you then experience as the unfoldment of that reality through the self-organizing intelligence inherent within consciousness. Yes, I hope you get what I'm saying. And then you got the degrees of identification. And it's only when you realize the power of your consciousness that we can then now, next strong, I'll talk about identification, the degrees in identification with the scale, in the scale of consciousness, to why, as a man thinketh, so shall he become. You see, if you deal with identity in the dysfunctional way that people are, relating with it, using the term, then you're going to be thinking that good and bad is based upon the color of a person's skin or the country that them come from or the clothes that they wear. You understand? Or the food that them eat or don't eat. You see, you're deriving something from a caste system, which is not identity. What makes people, when you deal with good and bad, all right? Some people say good and evil, yeah? Well, say good and evil then, right? And we want justice. We want justice. Yeah, we do. But first you have to understand that good and evil doesn't have a color. You see? Good and evil come in all races. You see, when you want to create identifying something now, you see what you want to do? And you then pertain things to color and use color to be what you use to judge people. You know, see the madness it creates. It's unjust. It's unjust for one and all because, you see, good and evil comes in all colors, all sizes, and also both genders. You understand? So, you have people of all different races. You have good and bad or good and evil in all different races. And even you can even research the word evil. Yeah? See where it really comes from because of what it's dealing with. Because it's just something that, you have agreeable and disagreeable aspects and traits within people, within individuals. And which one they choose to actualize or align with. Yeah. And it's judgment that actually creates things to be, based on beliefs that narrow down and constrict, what you would say, what determines good and what determines bad and what determines right and what determines wrong. That creates that there's a distortion in that too. Yeah, coming from man-made laws and man-made morality rather than natural laws to understand really what you should be basing or using as the foundation for your own conception of yourself, what you use as a foundation to interpret life. So yeah, your conditioning is part of the spell, is part of the illusion, your societal and cultural conditioning. I usually always kind of get tongue-tied when I use them words there and use that. But anyway. So, I'm going to wrap this up this evening. So this was, what is the meaning of identity, part 2. Because I felt it needed another, another section to go into. Because really, what I'm going to say on the way out with this is that, as I was saying about consideration means examining the stars. To simplify this thing. As above, so below. And how the stars are actually what you use to, You know, it gives you guidance and it keeps you in tune with the natural laws, not man-made or natural distorted laws that many people are living by and giving so much authority to and empowering, which is disempowering their own self. Yeah? When you're dealing with the stars, you give you guidance, and you are a star and you have a guiding star within inside of you. And what's taking place in the heavens now is the reason why many people are feeling a bit of anxiety, and where you're seeing these things acting out, yeah, because the fear of letting go to your old constructs of your, you know, individual consciousness or group consciousness, yeah. As I said, you got that Mercury retrograding in Pisces, and you're going to be getting Jupiter getting ready to retrograde in Sagittarius, and you need to understand these things, because all of this is within you, and you need to understand the star within you, the guiding star within you is trying to talk to you. Is trying to communicate with you. And you are there believing consideration is what it doesn't even flipping mean. Getting caught up in your emotional, psychological, societal, and cultural conditioning, which breeds these misinterpretations of the words you use, and yourself get entrapped emotionally and psychologically in other people's illusions and confusions. And especially their damn delusions. And the soul coming here to free itself, because they're called fetters, what tying the soul down, because you're the soul. It's like your feet, them is the feet, not the shoes. So we're in a time of liberation, but you think say it's gonna be how you imagine it? Through the eyes of the forced beliefs, forced perceptions. You see, when the brother said emancipate your mind from mental slavery, none but ourselves can emancipate yourselves from mental slavery, none but ourselves can free our minds, yeah? It's because now you've become a slave to your mind rather than the master of it, because your mind is just the mental framework you use it, yeah, to mediate in this world. But when Mercury, your mental framework, enters into Pisces, all of that stuff's gotta, hey, that don't work no more. Because now, you see, your mind is a mediator between the spirit and the matter, or the spiritual and the physical, or the soul and the body. And Mercury retrograding through Pisces is saying you need to dissolve all of these illusionary boundaries and barriers, physical, emotional, and spiritual, that prevents you, your consciousness, from consciously directly realizing consciously its oneness with the total reality. Pisces represents the universal consciousness, the totality of the truth, the totality of the total source. And you are consciousness. And consciousness is not separate from consciousness. But the illusion of separation, based upon mental framework and structure and the belief systems that you use to hold onto, based on your societal and cultural conditioning, gives you the illusion of separation. And now everything you thought you knew before and had so figured out and worked out, now you're not so sure about it. And you're forced to go deep inside of yourself, your mind. You have to dissolve those limited precepts you got going on. You see? This is what's going on here. And we've had a full moon in Libra. And we're going to have a second full moon in Libra next month, April. So definitely relationship and the way you're relating to yourself. And the relationships, how you perceive relationships. These type of personality out of control, ownership, whatever. You know, or who's dominant and who's submissive, or, loggerheads. Because if you don't know who you is, then you're looking. You see, some people use relationships to define who they are as well. But we're in a new beginning. Aries represents that. So anyway, look, not folk going within, feeling depressed, getting, and went deep within inside. Yes, because things have to purge out certain things, limitations in your mind. The mind you're identifying with needs to dissolve, because this is about coming back home. This is about, firstly, letting go of the illusions of your mind to return back to source within yourself, which is Pisces, the absolute totality. But you see, if you're not dealing with the study of the stars, which is the study of yourself, because you are a star, and which is why astrology is about know thyself. That's what the tool was. I'm not saying it's the only way to get there, but yeah. We were chatting about our ancestors and the ancients who were more, well, they didn't leave these tools around just to kind of be something just to be put up on the, as an ornament on the flipping, you know, side table, or put up as an ornament on the wall. Just to look at, and it's supposed to be utilized. And you know, there's this thing, the stone that the builder refuse will always be the head cornerstone. And there's many things people refuse that them supposed to use. And because them refuse what them supposed to use, them catch up in her. Them catch up in her. Yeah. Hell zone and difficulty and misery. And you know what them say about misery? Misery love company. Yeah. Well, me nah be no company for no misery. Yeah. Because I'm not refusing what was given to I to use for the purpose of I and I liberation. But each one can, yeah, them have their own choice. They make their own choices. See? So on that note, I'm going to say yes, one and all. We're going to give you a good shadow hour. And wish you all the best. And as usual, you know, my soul brothers and sisters, I will be with you again on the flip side next Tuesday. But now you have this idea, when you look upon identity now and think about this, it's about opening your mind and letting go of all of those old past constructs or structures in your consciousness. Yeah? So you can, yeah, liberate your soul from the fetters that's been holding and trying to control. Yeah? You're in a goal from shining. You know what I'm saying? So, I wish you all a good shadow hour, and yes, one love.
Wow, 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 wow.